Here's how you do the peace process. Step 1, think of something that you'd like to achieve or something you need to do in order to achieve the thing that you want. And notice if it makes you, if you have some fear around it. I believe that coaching is the most powerful force for change on earth. I believe that success is inevitable if you're willing to do the work in the world and do the work on yourself. Fear is one of the biggest things holding us back. Fears and doubts. Fears and doubts. Who here ever experiences fears or doubts? Anyone in here? Is there anyone in here who does not ever experience fears and doubts? Okay, yeah, I do. I doubt myself. I have fears. I have insecurities. I'm a work in progress. I'm working on myself. I am addicted to healing myself and helping myself work through my stuff. I saw a cartoon the other day, and it showed a guy reading a self-help book that says, "How to cure your addiction to reading self-help books." All right, fear. There's a really powerful technique there's two really incredible techniques for working through fears that I've developed, discovered, been gifted. One is called the peace process, and the other one is called the instant miracle technique. The great thing about the peace process is it's simple. I learned NLP and hypnotherapy, and you got all these big processes of doing all this stuff, and it's helpful. I got a lot of value out of learning how to do NLP, but I don't really use NLP much in terms of helping people resolve fears. I mostly use the peace process and instant miracle. Here's how you do the peace process. Step 1, think of something that you'd like to achieve or something you need to do in order to achieve the thing that you want. And notice if it makes you, if you have some fear around it. Who here has a fear of public speaking? Who here has a fear of talking to somebody you would want to ask on a date? Who here has a fear of asking for the sale? Who here has a fear of talking about your fees and talking about money? Who here has a fear of charging a lot for your coaching? Okay, so any of those, you could pick any of those, or anything else that you've got a fear around. And when you think about that thing, notice what it feels like. And then notice where the feeling is in your body. So step 1 is think of the thing you're afraid of. So that's step 1. Step 2, locate the feeling in your body. Feelings are somewhere in our bodies. Usually it's somewhere along the chakra line, but often can be anywhere, can really be anywhere. It's frequently here, but not always. Who here, first, who has accomplished step number 1? You've thought of something that you have a fear about. Raise your hand if you've accomplished that. Okay? If you have not yet been able to even think of a fear that you'd like to let go of, raise your hand. So, okay, you haven't found a fear yet? Okay. Fear of heights? No? Okay. Okay. You don't need to. I know you know how to do the peace process, so don't worry about it. Enjoy just being fear-free for the moment. Yeah. Okay. Step 2, you find where the feeling is in your body. Who here, when you think of the fear, you've been able to find where the feeling is in your body? Raise your hand if you accomplished step 2. Okay. Raise your hand if you are having trouble locating where the feeling is in your body. Okay. That's okay. That happens sometimes. Does that sound familiar? That's a callback to the beginning. That happens sometimes because it's true. It does happen sometimes. If we've been so accustomed to stuffing down our feelings, then sometimes it's hard to whoa, where are feelings? I'm, habitually repressing our emotions. I'm not saying that's true and that's the reason. Maybe it's just so subtle that you can't notice it. You could try thinking of a different fear and see if you're able to find that in your body. If you don't find it in your body, just write down what the steps are. Step 1, what was step 1? Think of the fear. Think of a fear that you want to let go of. Think about that situation, actually. That might be a good distinction. Think about the situation that you would be in that would be fearful. So not just think about the concept of, oh, I have the fear of public speaking. Oh, but I'm not feeling any of it. Imagine yourself actually doing the public speaking. Imagine yourself actually asking for a raise, right? Maybe that's the fear. Imagine yourself, whatever the thing is that feels scary, imagine yourself doing it or being in that situation. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, what's step 2? Find where the feeling is in your body. Great. Once you find where the feeling is in your body, then you want to do the same thing that we taught you to do at the very beginning, which is create a safe space for that feeling. We want to make it okay for that feeling to be felt. So step 3 is we're not trying to make the feeling go away. We're not trying to analyze the feeling. We're not judging the feeling. We're not making it wrong to feel that way. Right? It's like, oh, I feel so weak. I feel like a loser. I don't want to feel like a weak loser. And then you judge the feeling. Like it's bad enough to feel bad. And then we add layers of shit on top of it. It's like, oh, I'm not doing the stuff I need to do, and I'm scared to go make those cold calls. And then I'm on top of that, I'm ashamed that I didn't go do the thing, and put another layer on top of it. And then I judge myself. And then I make up things like, I'll never be successful. This is we make a disaster casserole. It's a disaster roll. All right, so make all feelings okay. There's going to be part of you that's okay, I'm willing to feel the feeling. There might be a part of you that's not willing to feel the feeling, that's resisting the feeling. Make everything okay. It's all the emotions are okay. We're not here to judge it. We're not trying to make it go away because what we resist persists. So we just make it okay. We let the feeling be there. Without trying to change it, without trying to get rid of it, we just let it be. So step 3 is to create a safe space. Step 4, put your attention on the most intense part of the feeling. That's right. In creating a safe space, you can also say some of those things to yourself or to others. You're doing great. That's right. When I went through NLP and hypnotherapy training, we did a whole thing where all we were doing was saying "that's right" to people. Like just that phrase in of itself has power. That's right. So while people are peace processing, while you're peace processing yourself, you could say to yourself, "That's right. That's right. You've got this. You're doing great." It'd be self-talk, but if you're coaching someone else, you could say those same things to them. That's right. And especially when you notice, like, either they take a deep breath or you see them like relax a little bit more, like, "That's right. That's right. You're doing great." So that's part of step 3, creating that safe space, creating that energetic container, maybe a better phrase for step 3, creating that energetic container of safety. And so then you're on step 3 is find the most intense part, right? Step 4 is find the most intense part, right? Step 4, find the most intense part and just really tune into the physical sensations of that most intense part. And see if there's like an eye of the hurricane, like if there's some spot like inside that most intense part where there's just some peace in there. There could be, there may or may not be, but just look for that as you focus on the most intense part. And then just stay with it. Let the emotion be there until it goes away. Step 5 is let it run its course. Going back to that holding the energetic container, that's step 3, right? Safe space, energetic container. While you're in that place, be as unconditionally accepting of the feeling as you can be. And if you can, be even loving towards the feeling. Send it love. Stay out of the mind, stay in the body. Really feel that feeling. That's right. I've been doing some of these instant miracle healing breaths already. But even without them, the peace process works in and of itself. Who's noticed that the energy, the intensity of the thing that you're afraid of has decreased or completely gone? Nice. Stay with it. Peace is inevitable. The peace process will 100% get you to peace about anything. Any pain from the past, any frustration in the present, any fear of the future, whatever it is, you can get to peace about it. Right? Doesn't mean like, oh, like think of your kids being hurt in some way. Like, oh, I don't want that, right? But I'm like, if you're actively, constantly worrying about something, right, there's something you can peace process about it. Like, if I was constantly worrying, oh my God, where are my kids? What's happening? Like, I can't let you can let that go, right? If somebody was like, well, what if somebody like took a needle and poked your daughter? Like, yeah, of course I'd be like frustrated and angry and I want to kill them or something. Like, those are normal and natural feelings. But if you're constantly worrying about something, then there's something to heal there, right? Being afraid to come up on stage and speak about something, that's not normal. You can get to peace about that. And ultimately, the proof is in the pudding. You'll know that it's resolved, A, when you can think about it again and it no longer pushes any buttons for you, or when you actually go do it. So if you have a fear of public speaking, if you imagine public speaking and you feel like crap about it, and then you piece process it out, and then you imagine speaking, and now you don't feel worried about it. You feel excited. You feel looking forward to it. It feels joyful. It feels like it's fun. Then the chances are 90-something% of the time, you could get up on stage and feel great. And if you actually go to do it and you don't, well, then maybe you have a little bit more to work on. And if you can, like if I'm working with somebody up on stage and their fear is fear of public speaking, I'm going to work with them till they feel at peace about it, and then I'll test it. I'll be like, all right, teach us, speak, give us a talk. Do a talk for us right now. And if that freaks them out, we work on it a little bit more. Then I'm like, all right, go ahead, give it a talk. And then we wait till they feel ready, and as soon as they start talking, I'm like, that's good enough. How did you feel? Like, I don't need them to actually do a whole lot of talking, but step 6 is once it's run its course, and it will, and you never know how long it's going to take. It could take seconds, it could take minutes, it could take hours, it could take several sessions over the course of months. My fear of heights, I spent 9 months working on it diligently before I finally got over my fear of heights. And then I went and I tested it because I did the ropes course the first time and I was terrified. After I got over my fear of heights, I could do the ropes course, zero fear. I did the ropes course again yesterday, and I had a mild twinge towards the top of climbing up the ropes without any harness. To get up onto the ropes course, you're not harnessed in, and that was mildly freaky. And then the zip line, I felt a little bit right before going. But night and day compared to the first time I went. And I haven't been putting myself in that situation in a long time. But then I went to test it on skydiving. I went skydiving before, hated it. I was like, all right, I'm going to try it now and see if I feel any better. I might have felt a little better, but I still have fear of heights. I don't have fear of heights anymore. I have fear of jumping out of an airplane. And I know I don't have fear of heights because I just took, at my Limitless mastermind, we took them all up on a hot air balloon ride. I had no problem. I could look over the edge, nothing. Every now and again, I would look over the edge and I would like imagine jumping out, and I'd be like, whoa. But like just being there, no. Or I'd imagine like, whoa, what if I climbed around the bottom of the basket? I'm like, why would I think that? Like, so, so I might have a sliver of something still left to work with, but like my wife and I went on a hot air balloon ride 10 years ago or something for one of our anniversaries. And it, like, looking over the edge was freaky. This time it wasn't. We brought up oranges and bananas, and I asked the guy, I'm like, can I throw this over the edge? And I'm like, yeah. It's not it's not plastic. And so we threw it over, and it was like that. You just watching that banana like spin around, banana peel spin around, and just like how long you were able to see it. Getting smaller and smaller, and just sliver of light, and then all of a sudden it's falling relatively straight down, and then as it gets close to the ground, the wind catches it and it starts shooting it over to the side and spinning it around and stuff. Super fun. Throwing orange peels down, it's like no problem. So I don't have a fear of heights. It's officially, I was like, nah, do I have a fear of heights? Because I still have some fears of skydiving. All right, let's see what else. So step 6 is, once it's run its course, to go back to step 1 and think about the situation that made you scared in the first place. Because, bless you, as you become less associated to the thing, as you're thinking about it less, the energy might go down a little bit anyway. So as you think about it again, you might notice there's still a little left. If so, just just keep going through it till you get to neutral, or even joy or bliss about the situation. When you're in a fearful state, are you at your best?
No.
Are you at your most resourceful? No. Are you going to perform at your best?
No.
Not likely, right? So it's really good to get yourself out of fear. And if you get to step 7 and you check in and you're at peace, 90-something% of the time, if you can imagine it and feel terrified, and then you work through it and you imagine this, do the same imagining, and now you're at peace, 90-something% of the time, it's resolved, right? Actually going and testing it, getting up on stage, doing the thing, asking a girl out, whatever, asking for the money, talking about your fees, all that stuff, actually doing it and seeing that you're at peace, that's when you'll know for sure. Okay, the proof is always in the pudding. And if there is still some fear, it doesn't mean, oh, this didn't work. It just means it's not done. The work just isn't complete yet. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, when you're doing peace processing with your clients, how long does it take? You never know how long it's going to take to resolve. Remember how important presence is. That's what does the trick. You presence out the energy of the emotion. Your presence is like a flame for yourself when you're coaching yourself when you're doing the peace process for yourself. Your own presence is like the flame, and the fear, the doubt, the anguish, whatever it is that you got going on, the angst is like the oil in an oil candle, and your presence is like a flame. And the more you just stay present to the physical sensations, the most intense part, you follow it around wherever it can move sometimes. It might disappear there and pop up here. It could snake around. All kinds of things can happen. You just keep following the spot. It could show up in 2 spots. It could show up in 2 spots and it like with energy shooting between them. Just keep focusing on the most intense part wherever it is. And this too shall pass. And you will get to peace. Your presence is like the flame in an oil candle, but we don't know how much oil is in there. And how intense the feeling is and how long it takes to resolve are completely unrelated. It could be really intense and go away in a matter of seconds. It could be mildly intense and take a long time. You just never know. But peace is inevitable. You will resolve this. I used to think that, my fear of heights, I just thought maybe this one's just not resolvable because it was taking so long. My fear of making offers from stage was one of those where I was like, I worked through so many things so fast with Instant Miracle and Peace process. I don't know, why can't this one, but eventually this too shall pass. Peace is inevitable. You can get to peace about anything. So when you're working with clients on this, if they, the best way to introduce the inner work, the mastering your mind and emotions work, the best way to introduce it is when your client is stuck, and this is the reason why. They said they were going to do something, and they didn't do it. They said they were going to do it, and they didn't. It's not about holding people accountable, because that always it feels very oppressive to me. It's not about holding people. There's some truth, checking in. Did you actually follow up? I don't look at it as holding people accountable. I look at it as keeping people on track. And I look at if they're not taking action, there's a reason why. Maybe they have some fear about it, right? And I would just say, when you think about taking this action, how does it feel? Does it feel good, or does it feel some angst about it? If they have some angst about it, say, I have a process that can help you resolve that angst. And once that angst is gone, how do you think you'd be more likely to take action? Oh my God, that'd be amazing. That's why safety is so important, so people can show up and not take action week after week and still tell you the truth and still come to the calls, right? And then once you're taking them through the process, you just say, all right, think about going to that networking event. When you think about it, what do you feel? What does it feel like? Where do you feel that feeling in your body? Focus on the most intense part. Stay out of the mind, stay in the body. Don't try to judge it or analyze it. Don't try to make it go away. Just let that feeling be there. Send it love if you can. And then as they're being with it, you could just be like, that's right. That's right. Stay with it. Stay with it. If someone starts to cry, that's okay. That happens sometimes. And just really invite them to tune into the physical sensations, because when someone starts crying, it's usually because they're caught in a story about the emotion. So you want to get them out of the story and back into the body. Stay out of the mind, stay in the body. You're doing great. Crying is totally okay. That happens sometimes. It's part of the process. I want to invite you to just really tune into the physical sensations, like really focus on the most intense part. Send it love. And that usually gets people out of the tears and back into the body and lets it resolve. And you stay with them for as long as you can. I like to, the first time I'm ever peace processing with someone, I want to, as much as possible, stay with them until it gets resolved, which means sometimes our session might go long, which means sometimes I might need to tell my next client I need to reschedule because I'm going extra for one of my clients that's in a tough spot right now. Most clients are pretty understanding about that and feel like, wow, if you're willing to do that for one of your other clients, you'd be willing to do that for me, and that's also reassuring for them. So the first time, and it's not always possible because you never know how long it's going to take, but 90% of things resolve in a matter of minutes. Very few take months of really intense work on stuff, right? And I would make sure that you get the hang of taking yourself through it. Usually when we're not in groups, we're in groups, so when we wrap up for today, you could practice this with each other if you'd like. What I usually recommend people do is try it with yourself and get to peace 3 times. And once you do that, once you take yourself through it 3 times, you have enough certainty that this is going to work that you could actually take your clients through it. If you're like, oh my gosh, I'm working on it for myself, or I just heard about it and I've never tried it, and then you're working with a client and they're just like, 30 minutes later, they're like, oh God, it's more intense, or shit, you should have seen what happened at Biggs. It got really crazy. Sometimes, things happen, bodies start, we never know what's going to happen. It's all okay. It's all part of the process. It's all part of the healing. That's right. You're doing great. And eventually they'll get to peace. Okay, let's take questions. Mary.
So my question is, what if their fear, and I'll use you as an example because everybody heard you, but if your wife didn't come back to you, do you really want to be at peace with that?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, help me understand why.
Because neediness repels.
Oh, yeah, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. So getting to peace doesn't mean you give up the desire to be back with your wife.
Right.
But if you make peace with the situation, you'll be in a much more resourceful place. Right? If I felt angry that she kicked me out, if I was ashamed, if I was, all that stuff, those are not going to get me back to a great relationship. What's going to get me back to a relationship is getting to peace, owning my value, not being needy, giving her space that she needed at that moment. So, yeah, I don't think being freaked out about things is very helpful to people resolving any situation. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Mary. That was a great question, though. It's a very great question. Thank you for asking that.
All right. What you said raised a different question than my question.
Yeah.
So can I ask you to clarify?
Sure.
You talked about, well, if I'm angry or resentful or whatever, is the peace process, is it just for fears?
No, you
Or
can
is
get
it
through any
everything?
angst about anything. Worries, fears, frustrations,
Anger, okay.
anger. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to check in on that. So my question is, how the peace process works if the fear isn't just some imaginary situation, but something that someone encounters every day. For example, there is an acquaintance that I know in my neighborhood who a good friend of hers and her husband have said, hey, if there's anything you can do to help her, please, she won't go to therapy, do anything you can to help her. Her situation is she has 2 kids with food allergies that other kids have, but her fear level is to the point where she won't expose them to anything. She lets them go to school because the teachers know the rules, but there's only one restaurant they ever go to eat at. She won't let them go to any classes at church. She won't let anybody besides her husband babysit them, and it's really controlling their life. So it's a fear, but it's also something she's in like 100% of the time.
Okay, so hang on. This is where I'm so glad this is coming up. Who wants the change? Does she want the change? Or do her friends want to change her?
The change that she and I have discussed is how to develop a course.
When you say she and I, who? Who's she?
The mom who has the kids with the allergies.
The mom who has the fear about the kids.
The only solution she and I have discussed is creating a course so she didn't have to explain to everyone over and over again, that she could say, oh, if you're going to take care of my child, go watch this video. So then she would know that they know the rules.
Yeah.
But that's the only conversation I've had with her.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if she is paranoid or if she's being a great mom.
The friend and the husband are leaning toward, like, other people have these issues and they don't respond that way. So
Okay.
that's all.
I've also heard of kids getting killed by careless caretakers. And maybe this is what she needs to do. I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. If she has a fear and if she would like to resolve it, you can help her do that with the peace process.
Okay.
If she wants to work through it, she might think, I don't want to let go of that fear because if I do, my kids will die.
Right.
It's not true. Having the fear isn't going to make her more likely to keep her kids alive, actually. It might be more likely to manifest it, because we often will manifest what we most desire or what we most fear, or a watered-down version of the two. So if she lets go of the fear, she'll let her intuition can guide her. Like, in a fearful state, how easy is it for intuition to come in? Not very easy. Even if it's coming in, how easy is it for us to hear it? Not very easy. Even if we hear it, how easy is it for us to act on it? Not very. Right? So if she agrees, like, I would love to let go of the anxiety about this, and then help her with that. And then when she lets that go, she'll be in a place where she can make better decisions. And maybe there's a way to cure those allergies. Maybe Instant Miracle could help resolve those allergies. I have had a lot of people have a lot of success letting go of gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance, all kinds of issues. And it's possible, and maybe not. Like, just because, and I want to say this too, just because this mysterious, woo-woo, crazy, magical instant miracle technique has resolved all of these different things doesn't mean it will resolve everybody's allergies or everyone's hearing issues or everyone's, whatever. I don't know. And maybe it will. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't, but who knows? That answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Because just because she's with her children all day, the actual fearful situation isn't something that's necessarily, they're not actually in peril, having been exposed to an allergen every minute of the day. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Tammy. And Tammy, if she is open to it and does want to try it and you help her resolve it, please go inside the Coach Club Facebook group and tell us about it. Okay? Thanks, Tammy. Melanie.
Hey, I wanted to know if there was a significance to the intensity or the location of the intensity.
Is there a significance to where the emotion is?
Where you're feeling it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you could, if it's in this chakra, maybe it's related to, different chakras mean different things. It doesn't matter. Analyzing it, it's irrelevant.
Okay.
That's one of the most beautiful things about this. When you're coaching someone, you don't even need to know what the thing is that there was working. You don't need to know where it came from. You don't need to go back into the childhood. You don't need, you just process it through, and this too shall pass.
Okay.
Peace is inevitable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Melanie. Paula.
So when you say it might take a while to work on, in your situation, the fear of heights, and it took 9 months that you were working on it.
Yes.
Is that you were able to, at the time, get to peace for a little while, and then that fear would return, and then you did the peace process again?
No,
Okay.
I didn't get to peace, and then it was like I'd think about it, and it's like, oh, and it's here, and then it's on a scale of 0 to 10, it's 25, and then maybe it gets down to a 22, and then maybe it gets to an 8, and then it moves over here, and then it's down, then it goes back up to a 12, and then it goes over here, and then it's like, oh, and then, And the other thing is, I just kept putting myself in scary situations. I started doing indoor rock climbing. Because it's, I can imagine it and then it's helpful, but throwing myself in it. And then I'd be climbing and I'd be on the rock wall and I'd get to a height level, which would be freaky. And I'd just be I would just pause right there, maybe even let go and just hang there, and instant miracle and peace process, and keep doing it and climb a little higher and do it over and over again. When I say 9 months, it was 9 months of doing rock climbing 2-3 times a week and working on it there. Sometimes in between too, but it's I liked rock climbing even though it was scary, so I didn't mind putting that was just a great way of doing it. With selling and making offers from stage, I worked on it a ton when I wasn't on stage, but I worked on it the most during a live event. The live event would be coming, as I'm leading up to it, the anxiety would get bigger, right? Then I'd be leading the live event, then it would go to be break. I'm okay.
But during that break, you became peaceful, but then it would come back.
No.
Okay.
No. Peacier.
Okay, peacier.
Peace.
You became PC.
Somewhat peaceful.
Okay.
Somewhat peaceful. I got less anxious.
Okay.
Less angst. And then I just kept doing the live events and making offers and making a couple offers during the events and then getting more and more peaceful. And
Okay.
yeah.
I have a couple of clients that during the session will say that it's at a 0, and we stick with it until it gets to a 0, and then a few sessions later they come back.
Do you check back? Because again, you need to go. Step 7 is have them reimagine it and check. So you got to make sure because it can get to 0 in the moment. That's why you have to reimagine it. We call it poking the bear. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can have them imagine it in an even worse scenario, right? Sometimes people have fear of charging a lot of money. I'm all right, how much money scares you to charge? Oh, if I charge $10,000. We work on it, we get them to peace. I'm what if you were to charge 25? Oh, okay, well, let's work through that,
Okay. So it's a different level.
It could be a different level to make it, to go even deeper with it, but let's take fear of public speaking. If you can get somebody to peace with public speaking, and then they can check it out and actually talk and not be afraid, it's resolved. It's not going to come back. Now, maybe if the size of the audience goes up, that could possibly push some. If you have some people in the audience that you look up to and you are worried about what they would think, that could push some buttons. But just regular public speaking, if they get it resolved, it's resolved.
Okay.
That's been my
And
experience.
have them go back and check on it after they say they're at 0 and
Yeah, you got to just go back in that moment, in that session. Once they get to
Yes.
neutral, say, okay, think about it again.
yeah.
That's the critical thing, because just sitting there, you become a little, you haven't been, you start off thinking about the scary thing, and now you're focusing on the energy, and you're not thinking about the scary thing as much anymore. So you got to go back and check.
Okay.
And then recheck, and keep checking until you check, and then they feel good. And then say, okay, go speak this week, right? Or go raise your fees, or go, whatever the thing is, go climb the rock wall, whatever it is.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Paula.
So off of Paula's question, are we, and then I have another one, but are we asking our client what they would rate it from a 0 to 10
You
scale?
could
Because you brought
totally
it-
ask that. Yeah, you could totally
Okay.
ask. On a scale of 0 to 10, how intense is it? You could. You don't have to. But you could, because then you can measure progress too. Instead of just, is it there? Is it gone? You know, it's, again, the light switch analogy. It's like, is it getting softer? Sometimes it'll get more intense. That doesn't mean it's not working too. Any change means it's on its way out. Sometimes it gets more intense before it gets less intense. That's okay too. Until finally, it's finally, the dimmer is all the way off. It's done. And the great thing is, once an issue's handled, it's handled. This is one of the most powerful and most permanent ways to resolve something. There's a great book by one of my most powerful mentors, David Hawkins. He's most well known for his book Power versus Force, which is a very hard to read book, but his magnum opus, in my opinion, is Letting Go, which is the easiest book to read, and he calls it the letting go process, and it's kind of like the peace process. It's just surrendering and accepting everything and allowing and accepting, and that's a lot of what the peace process is. It's just let yourself feel the stuff. All of our fears are fears of feelings. Everything we think we're afraid of, we're not afraid of the situation. We're afraid if that situation were to occur, it would make us feel this thing. All of our fears are fears of feelings. Once you know that you can feel anything, nothing can stand in your way. Nothing can stop you. And it takes courage to feel the feelings. It's scary. The scariest thing in the world is to feel feelings we don't like to feel. There's nothing more scary than that.
Thank you. And the next question is, so in somatic informed therapies, or if even like EMDR, what is EMDR? Rapid eye. It's something rapid eye, something movement, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, there's when you close a session, you'll talk about this with the client beforehand. If you're going to close a session, there is a grounding phase or a safety phrase that you use to close the session, or you can do different sounds, or there are different techniques. My point is, if we have this client that has this feeling and it's not resolving and it's at 90 minutes, do you leave them with the feeling? How do you close it?
If this is the first time doing this with a client, I definitely do not want to leave them there. If we've done this several times, they got the hang of it, I know they can do it, then I will be like, you know what? Are you cool? Are you comfortable just keep working on this on your own? And if they say yes, great. And if not, then say, you know what? Maybe we could schedule another session this week instead of having to wait till next week, Or if it's like crazy intense between now and their next session, reach out to me and I'll do my best to, just be available to you as soon as I can. But the great thing is the worst thing that can happen is that people feel feelings. We're so worried about somehow hurting our client, what? We can't leave them. People aren't fragile. People are resilient. And guess what? They've been having this feeling their whole life. They've just been stuffing it down anyway. So it's like, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. You've created such rapport, such safety, such a beautiful space. Your clients are going to be okay. That said, if it's the first time we're doing it, if we're wrapping the session, I would still say, look, if this comes, if this is really intense and you really need to talk to me before next week, text me. I'll see what I can do, or maybe we could schedule a session in a couple of days or whatever. We can jump back on this thing. But people can do this on their own. Like, I've been teaching this for years. I have videos on this. Like, just because you're the coach coaching them on it doesn't mean, like, all of a sudden, if something bad were to happen, it's your fault. Like, people can be responsible for themselves. People are responsible for themselves, whether they want to take responsibility or not. Mm-hmm. And so you can't get it wrong.
Okay.
You can't do this wrong. And a great way to get people back into a new energy space is to get them moving around, get them dancing, get them smiling, get them to move their body around a little bit, right? If you have a fear of public speaking and you're about to go on stage, if you have 20 minutes before you go on stage, do some peace processing. If you're going on stage in the next 30 seconds, jump up and down and change your physiology, change your physicality, right? Get yourself into a better state that way, and then, go for it. So you can do the same thing at the end of the session. All right, I want you to stand up. I want you to shake your body out. I want you to jump up and down. I want you to imagine you just won the lottery, whatever it is, and
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Okay?
thank you.
And definitely, once I've done it one time and they get the hang of it, then I know that I trust that they're going to be able to do it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Carrie. Okay, let's try to do these a little faster. Let's go straight to the question, and I'll do my best to answer quick. Go ahead.
Fibromyalgia is linked to trauma, and many times it's emotional trauma. So it's easy to identify the physical trauma more than the emotional trauma. So
Okay.
would the peace process help someone that really
I
don't
use
know?
the peace process for emotional things, and often it ends up curing physical issues. I worked with somebody on time scarcity up on stage a few years ago. And he was up on stage, and he was like, we're on the thing, and he's kind of stiff, and I didn't know he had back pain. He was like, and then eventually he mentioned the chairs, and I'm like, yeah, they're kind of uncomfortable. He's like, no, actually, this is feeling really comfortable. My back's feeling good. I normally have back pain and all this stuff as the emotional stuff. We get him to peace about his time scarcity, and then he gets up off the thing, and he's like, oh, my God, my back hasn't felt this good in 15 years. I'm like, I'm so sad you've had to suffer for these last 15 years. Look how fast we resolved it, and we think it's all physical, but a lot of times, maybe all the time, a lot of the time, maybe all the time, it's emotional stuff for sure. But I focus on the emotion. If somebody does have something physical, for that, I usually I'll do some instant miracle, maybe some muscle testing, maybe also some peace processing if something does come up emotionally for them while we're working on the physical thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Maria. Okay, these are the last 3 questions. Carmel?
Yeah, Christian, can you say more in step 4 about finding the eye of the hurricane?
Yeah, just if the most intense part, you just keep looking for the most intense part. You keep dialing in, like if you could pinch zoom and then go to that most intense part and then pinch zoom that and just really your attention to the most intense part of the most intense part of the most intense part until you may find that there's just peace in there.
Okay.
And you may not, and it's okay. But it's just something to kind of be going. It's a target to be it's something to look for. And sometimes as soon as you find that, then it can all dissipate. It's a little shortcut.
Thanks.
You're welcome.